Do you want a finely machined, precise, sub-MOA rifle for about $3 grand? Then don't buy the Zastava M91, get an arrow soulless or something like that. But if you want one of the dirtiest, sexiest, battle-provenest Slav sniper rifles, you're in luck, because you can get a Zastava M91 sometimes. These are actually really hard to get, but they do come in. Now, before we get into the M91, let's pay some bills. 511 has a TFBTV viewer only 20% off code, but it's only available until August 28. Code is TFB20, all one word, and it'll work online or in stores. And if you check this out, the Belarusian POSP scope that comes with the M91 behind me comes with this cool, shitty knockoff woodland camo scope bag, but if you want a face full of God's plaid proper, 511 is giving away 2 of these bad boys. This is the Rush 24 in woodland. One will go to the best comment about the bag below, and one will go to a random Subscribestar, Utreon, or Patreon supporter. I'll have a page for entering the form to win this on the respective sites. Done with that shit, let's get into the gun. As I alluded to, the M91 has a Slavic operator simulator feature where it shoots like you're drunk. That's to say, it's not the most precise rifle in the world, especially with the paltry 4X optic that comes with it, but here I am, a never-served lawyer sitting in my pied-à-terre with luxuries like air conditioning, running water, and a whole shirt. And I have the nerve to criticize a dangerous, battle-proven, Soviet-origin designated marksman rifle. Can we just have a rule now where you can't talk shit on comm-block guns if you have a 401k? I'm picking on Slavs a little bit, but some of my closest buddies are Slavs. I'm also tucking myself up here like I'm landed gentry or something, when in truth I'm just a hick from Pensacola, Florida. And I think that's why I love the Slavs, especially the Serbs. They are literally European country boys, except their women have a full set of teeth and BMIs that are less than 30. This is not intended to be funny or the slightest exaggeration. It's totally true. If you're a Southerner in the US, you will fit in Serbia. They need to rename the Balkan countries like Floratia, Mississippi Grad, and Albania or something. I've been to the Zastava factory, by the way, and bear in mind that this is a legitimate military factory that's been around for like over a century, maybe 2. And that's where these rifles are getting turned out. According to a very interesting US military report I picked up from the 90s on Soviet weaponry, the SVD Dragunov was developed in 1965 as a designated marksman rifle, and it became the standard Soviet sniper weapon. 1 squad in each motorized rifle platoon would be issued an SVD, and talented riflemen would receive specialized training with it. But even though this was deemed a sniper rifle, as the report says, it's not very accurate, even if the 7.62-54 rimmed ammo that it uses has a huge effective range of 1,300 meters. In 1976, Zastava makes the M76, which looks a bit like an SVD, but it's actually closer to the Romanian PSL in that the M76 was basically a scaled-up AKM, while the SVD uses a different operating system than the AK does, short stroke versus long stroke. The M76 is a decently accurate gun for a semi-auto, and I've read it'll pull down 2 MOA with standard ammo. It enjoys a reputation of being reliable, and it's been battle-proven in a number of armed conflicts. You'll notice a trend that Zastava usually names rifles by the year of development, and that's why 15 years later, in 1991, we get the M91. That's the successor to the M76. M91 uses 7.62x54 rimmed, just like the SVD Dragunov, instead of the weird 8mm round that the M76 uses. It also comes with this thumbhole type stock, a little bit reminiscent of the SVD, and it features a chrome lined barrel back when Zastava wasn't chrome lining some of their barrels. It uses a 24.4 inch or 620mm barrel length, the exact length of the SVD, meaning that the 7.62-54 is a savage, over 2,600 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. It'll drop about 5 feet at 500 yards, but at that range, it'll still deliver twice the energy of the .357 Magnum fired point-blank range. The barrel's also threaded in the somewhat common for the AK 14x1 left-hand thread, so you could probably install an AK-type suppressor or a suppressor with an AK adapter, although Zastava's specs say that the thread protector is actually tack welded on, so it might take a little bit of effort to expose those threads. Related to that, the M91 has a similar gas adjustment system to the M90, which is one of my favorite AK type rifles. That's to say the M91 has a 3-position adjustable gas system, which comes in handy shooting surplus rounds. You can tune the gas to a point where the ammo is reliable, but the recoil is still mild, and you can adjust the gas for suppressor use as well, pretty handy. The trigger's not going to blow your mind, but it's certainly not bad either. You're talking about 3.5 pounds. It just feels like a really good AK trigger. You're not going to mistake it for a precision bolt-action rifle, but it does the job. It's got the typical AK-style paddle magazine release, but the M91 actually has a little extended pad to make mag changes just a touch easier for the 10-round magazines this gun uses. The thumbhole type stock has a cheek riser that you can move kind of in and out of position, snaps into place, and the gun even includes 1,000-meter iron sights. It also has a polymer handguard with Picatinny rail segments on the top and bottom. I suppose you could probably use this if you wanted to put a Picatinny rail bipod on this thing, but I think there's a possibility this could lead to a point of aim, point of impact shift, because it looks like this handguard might not be free floating, probably isn't, but then again, don't quote me on that. We took the M91 to the Adam Brown long range at Thunder Ranch and we tested it out to 700 meters. It's a little long and unwieldy, the gun, and it's about 11 pounds with the optic installed, which I suppose isn't too bad for having a 24-inch barrel. That said, between the weight and the adjustable gas, it was not very hard recoiling, even though it's pretty powerful. I could even get kind of mobile with it on Clint's urban sniper course, the Terminator, out there on the range, so it wasn't too bad to handle. Now, make no mistake, this gun is fun as hell to shoot, but is it accurate? Is it effective? Remember, its predecessor was capable of 2 MOA with surplus rounds, and I'd imagine this is probably about the same. We could barely break 3 MOA with surplus and the included 4x POSP Russian optic. That's not to say it's bad. In fact, I thought the glass was actually fine. 4x magnification is just kind of short for what kind of gun this is and the caliber it's in. And between the range finding, combat reticle, and the low magnification on it, we weren't terribly impressed with the accuracy we got out of this thing, but goddamn, we were still hitting 5'8" tall man-sized targets pretty easily up to 700 meters.
Here we go.
I'm on. Shot him right in the head.
Ryan probably shot it the best out of all of us. He did a wonderful job with the M91, couldn't miss with it. But, you know, he's a Mississippi boy, which means he's got Slav tendencies, so it's no surprise he was a crack shot with this glorified Serb deer rifle. And for what it's worth, because the M91 has a side rail for optics mounting, you don't have to use the included optic. You can get something with a little bit more power if you get an adapter that'll work there. Now, one thing I do want to note, you can kind of see how the optic is not center of bore line. It's kind of off a little bit to the left-hand side, so that's going to affect your windage calls. We actually had to make minor windage adjustments out at distance, even if there wasn't any wind blowing. I know that there are viewers out there who are going to be like, oh my God, 2 MOA or 3 MOA from a so-called sniper rifle, and I get that, but the average non-Pokemon trainer male is about 16 inches wide at the shoulders, meaning that if you line up dead center with 2 MOA ammo, you're probably still hitting your target at 800 yards with the M91. Good enough. And we actually do know that the M91 is lethal and effective from its use in combat. I hope that this reference doesn't bother anyone because it sounds like quasi-political, might be a little bit sensitive because it has to do with war crimes. No, I'm not talking about the Barbie movie. Rather, some interesting data I found from an international criminal case out of The Hague, specifically during the trial of accused war criminal Dragomir Milosevic. There's this relevant real-life operator expert testimony about the effectiveness of the M91 during the siege of Sarajevo in 1994. Interestingly, the reports of experts and witnesses with combat experience behind the M91 agreed with my calculation exactly, that the true maximum effective range of the M91 is really like 800 meters, although the testimony was that in reality 600 meters is more of a pragmatic, realistic maximum effective range for this gun. Our experience at Thunder Ranch mirrored this. We were making hits pretty easily, 600, 700 meters. So what are my subjective impressions of the M91? It's definitely effective, and it's a proven rifle if that's what pumps your plums. It shoots a powerful caliber, but it only has moderate recoil, probably because of the user adjustable gas system and the fact that it weighs 11 pounds with glass. The optic that comes with it, like I said, it's not really ideal, but it's not bad either. And it just looks cool as shit, right? Like it looks like it belongs on this gun. I think POSP optics are only about 350 or 400 bucks. So even though you do get an optic with the gun, which is nice, the whopping $3,500 MSRP on this rifle means that the optic only accounts for about 10% of the package price. So indeed, it is an effective rifle. We had no problems hitting man-sized targets 700 meters away and inside of that, obviously. But there are definitely more effective and accurate semi-automatic rifles that are less expensive and in more common calibers. In fact, if you got a huge boner for a semi-automatic 7.62 rifle with a combat pedigree, I have always been impressed with the M1A. Over 300,000 of you, and counting, watched my M1A tanker review from a few weeks ago, where I legitimately fell in love with the 16-inch M1A. And I'm working on a build for that gun as we speak. That all said, you're not buying this rifle because it's practical. No, you're not. You're buying this gun because you're like me. A little bit of a Slavaboo weird ass with a crush on rugged, reliable, combat-tested Soviet-type small arms because for some reason it's so hot to think that your rifle was made on the same machinery and the same assembly line as another rifle one serial number away, which got shipped to an actual combat theater. Yeah, the M1A is cool, but how many of those Springfield rifles are being bought up by chuds and fuds at the academy versus being shipped out in a nondescript cargo container to some legitimate end user with all the paperwork who's funneling said rifle through a neutral third party into a far-flung, despotic warlord sniper unit? Obviously, I'm joking. Kind of. But that's what makes these rifles so neat and so hard to get. They're still in demand from operator end users in different theaters around the world. Zastava could probably charge $5,000 each for these on the civilian market and still sell every single one of them like they do now for 3,500 bucks. I guess what I'm trying to say, in conclusion, is that if you just want a really good semi-automatic precision rifle that's more accurate and less expensive, then yeah, go somewhere else. For 3,500 bucks, you get an LMT Mars H, an M1A loaded with like a really badass optic. But if you want the real deal Holyfield DeVitch, I can tell you without reservation, pick up the M91. It's just so goddamn cool that it hurts. So if you have the means, pull the trigger on it. Promise you won't be disappointed. I am never disappointed in you for watching TFBTV. That doesn't make any sense. Like, that's kind of gibberish. Thank you for watching TFBTV, guys. Thank you to our sponsors, Ventura Munitions. They sent us the 7.62 54R that we shot through this gun in this video. And thank you to Top Gun Supply, your online shooting sports superstore. They sponsor the channel. We love you guys. Take care.